This is your ultimate buyer's guide to the new Ford Bronco. In this video, we're discussing all the features, the engine options, the transmission choices, and what you should look for when buying a new Ford Bronco. But even more importantly, we're talking about the features, the options, the engine choices you should forego if you're buying the new Ford Bronco. Hopefully, we can save you some money. Let's get right into it. Now, a little bit of background. We currently own a brand new Ford Bronco, and I've been very fortunate to drive most trims of the Bronco. I have talked to the Ford team, and I have a pretty good understanding of how the model lineup goes. And I want to make this very clear. There are two versions of the Bronco. There's the Bronco Sport, which is a smaller, more affordable, more road-going Bronco, and then there is the large model, the full-size Bronco. This is the model that competes with the Wrangler. It's the one with the convertible top, and that's the model we are focused on today. But don't think that just because we are focusing on the big Bronco alone, the decision is easy. There are 6 Bronco trims, tons and tons of different options, 2 engines, 2 transmissions, and hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a good understanding of what to pay and what options to go for. Now, the first choice you're going to have to make is whether or not you want a 2 or a 4-door Bronco. They both have their pros and they both have their cons, so let's go over it at a high level. If you have friends, if you have family members, if you have dogs that need to be transported, the 4-door is the way to go, pretty much bar none. The ability to simply open up the rear doors and jump into the large rear seats is a big bonus, plus the trunk is significantly larger than the 2-door model. Now, if you're like myself and you're single and you don't have friends or all that many folks to transport, the 2-door may be a good option for you. You're going to save some money over the 4-door. It's going to be easier to park. It may even be a little bit better off-road if you're into that kind of thing because the wheelbase is shorter. Now the trunk is smaller and it really isn't all that usable for most families. Plus, it only seats 4 people versus 5 in the 4-door model, which is another big consideration. I think in this video, we're going to focus primarily on the 4-door model of the Bronco because I have a feeling that's what most folks are going to spec. Don't think you lose a lot of off-road capability with the 4-door, even though it's a little longer. It is still an absolute beast out in the rocks, out in the sand, out in the mud. So regardless of 2 or 4-door, you're going to be able to get where you want to go off-road. Pretty much guarantee that. So the next decision you need to make is, do you want a soft top or a hard top Bronco? And I think that this is an important distinction. So what are the pros and the cons of each? Well, the cool thing about the soft top is you just pop a couple of latches, throw the top back, and you are out in the open sun enjoying your Ford Bronco to the fullest. And I really do appreciate that. Plus, you can take out the rear windows, fold it all the way back to with not that much more work, and then you've got the full convertible experience. Now, the other option is the hard top, and the hard top is a modular hard top. So there are these panels that you can remove above the heads of the driver and the passengers and get, 70% of the full soft top experience in a matter of a couple of minutes. You do, of course, have to put the panels in the vehicle. Luckily, Ford has done a good job of thinking this through, and unlike the 4-door, you can stack them up in the trunk area. Bring them along with just in case it starts to rain. Now, it is a little bit more of a faff to have to take the panels off and then put them in their little security bags. There are a lot of pros to the hard top. In theory, it should be quieter. I say in theory because ours was originally a hard top and we had one of the early ones that had the top problem. So ours was actually surprisingly loud and poorly made. But Ford claims they have fixed the issue and they'll be sending out a new top to us, so we'll be sure to test it out. But then you have the consideration of winter drivability. The hard top is probably going to do a little bit better in retaining heat within the vehicle. And then security, right? So the soft top has, a soft fabric canvas top, which in theory is easier to break into than the hard top. It also has the windows in the rear, which could be slashed if someone wanted to get into the trunk of the vehicle. Same thing with the back window. The hard top is worth the money. It's about $700. And keep in mind that the prices might change a little bit across the board in this video depending on the trim, but it is well worth it in my opinion. It's pretty well designed. I hope that the latest batch is going to be well made. If you're kind of closely following the Bronco world, you know that if you order one now, there's a good chance that the hardtop will be delayed compared to getting a soft top because of supplier issues. If you're watching this video in a year from now and you're looking at buying a Bronco off the lot, probably get the hardtop. Most dealers, I think, are going to spec the hardtops if they can, just because for most folks it makes a lot more sense. And as much as we like the idea of pulling the roof all the way back at the snap of your fingers, I think that very few people end up doing that. Now, the cool thing too is there are accessory tops. So there's something called the Bimini Mesh Shade, which Bimini is a funny word, but if you come from the Jeep world, that means bikini. And basically what that does is provide you a little bit of extra shade with the top all the way back. We use it on ours. We currently have it installed. It is really pretty cool. And you know, there's all sorts of different kind of top accessories that you can kind of play around with and explore. But the two main ones that we need to discuss are the hard top and the soft top. And I think that you're better off waiting for a hard top than going soft top. Plus, on the Bronco, one thing I hate is the rear quarter windows on the soft top have this wave to them, which in my opinion just looks really, really bad in person. Jeep doesn't have that, but from every Ford Bronco I've seen in person, the quarter window has like this kind of ripple in it, which just doesn't look very finished. So wait for the hard top. Now, the next thing you need to decide on, we'll probably go with the engine and transmission options. There are two, a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder gasoline engine and a 2.7 liter 6-cylinder gasoline engine. Now, both of these engines use something called forced inductions. On paper, using the best fuel, the 2.3 makes about 300 horsepower, and the 2.7 makes somewhere in the neighborhood of 330 horsepower. But the big story here is really the torque. The 2.3 makes nearly 100 pound-feet less torque than the bigger engine option. So which one should you get? Is it worth the extra cost to jump up to the 2.7? So I've driven both, and here's what I will tell you. If you live at altitude like we do here in Colorado, 5,000 plus feet, that naturally subtracts some power because of the air density. Regardless of whether or not it's an NA or turbocharged engine, you're still going to see some loss. This is a large vehicle, and I think that the 2.3, especially in a four-door configuration, is not really going to be all that satisfactory, especially if you're coming out of a more traditional car where you're used to snappy acceleration. The fact of the matter is that the Bronco is a large, heavy vehicle that is largely shaped like a brick. So if you live at altitude, like we do here, in Colorado, and especially if you live like in the high country where you're looking at 8,000 feet above sea level, I think that the 2.7 liter is a must. And even with the 2.7 liter up here, I feel like it's adequate, but not exactly a rocket ship, just because the Bronco is a heavy vehicle, especially in the four-door configuration. So beyond that, you need to discuss the transmission choice. So the 2.3, the small engine, comes standard with a manual transmission, and it's a very good manual, very good 7-speed manual. And if you want the manual, you have to get the small engine. So you cannot spec that in the 2.7. So definitely something to consider. If you want kind of that pure old school, I want to shift my own gears, and you're going to be getting the small engine regardless. Personally, I think most folks are just going to spec the automatic, just because that's where the world is going. Let's be completely honest about that. The automatic is going to be the way to go. It's a 10-speed. It's really good. If you live at sea level and you don't care about your Bronco being quick, just get the little engine. If you don't live at sea level, definitely consider the big engine. And slight fuel economy hit, but it still is a big square brick. It's not going to be all that efficient in any configuration. And if you're going to get something called the Sasquatch package, I personally think the big engine should be on your list pretty much immediately. And what do I mean by the Sasquatch package? Well, let me show you. So across the Bronco lineup, regardless of which trim you get, there's something called the Sasquatch package, and this varies in price, but it's between like $4,000 and $7,000 depending on the trim. And the Sasquatch package really turns this vehicle into an off-road beast. So it goes from a 30 or a 32-inch tall tire to a 35-inch tall tire, which is insane. It changes the final drive ratio. It gives you different suspension. It gives you fender flares. But the really cool thing it gives you is locking differentials in the front and the back. And it changes, like I said, a little bit depending on the trim. trim, but it is such a cool thing to be able to put these big, chunky off-road tires on any Bronco at any point. Now, it's a lot of money. Like genuinely, it's a lot of money. 4 to 7K is pretty nuts. But if you want the ultimate stance on your Bronco, if you want the ultimate in off-road worthiness, definitely consider the Sasquatch package. Do you need it though? No, you really don't. Like, you really don't. Even a Bronco without the Sasquatch package is going to take you 99.9% of places you'll ever need to go in the real world. Sure, it's not going to look as cool. Sure, it might not have those crazy wide flares. But I think for most folks, just forgo the Sasquatch. Unless you really want that cool look, or you're one of those crazy rock crawlers that want to go places well beyond where most folks need to, you just don't need it. It's fantastic to have. Our Bronco has it, and it really gives it a cool look. If you maybe regret it a little bit, you can still buy a Bronco. Put bigger tires on it later. Sure, you're not going to have maybe the front and the back locking discs, but for most folks, not a huge issue. The gearing is awesome too, and I'm sure people in the comment section are going to be like, oh, well, if I'm doing the Rubicon, I need the Sasquatch. And yes, it would be helpful, but like I said, I think that if you're watching this video and you just want a Bronco, just save yourself $5 to $7 and get a standard model on normal size tires. Plus, it's going to drive better. I find that the Sasquatch package drives worse. Plus, you're going to see a fuel economy sacrifice too for the 1% of time that the Bronco is actually going to be in the dirt. And that is just my personal opinion. All right, so now that we discussed that, let's kind of dive into the different trims and what they mean. So the base trim in the four-door starts at $33,450. It's got steel wheels. It's got a pretty plain-looking exterior with steel wheels and a basic grille. Up from there is the Big Bend. It starts at $36,130. Now this kind of adds some more luxury features on top of the base model, such as alloy wheels. Going up from there, Black Diamond starts at $38,795. This also has steel wheels, but this is the off-road focused, kind of affordable off-road focused machine. So it's got more of like a stripped down interior flooring surface, and that's going to be the one that you are not afraid to get dirty or banged up out on the trail. From there is the Outer Banks. They say off-roading in style. I'm going to say the more luxury city-oriented Bronco. Still, of course, is four-wheel drive and all that, but it's more of the model that you're going to see, I think, in areas where pavement dominates, because it's going to be the most road going and the most luxurious. From there, Badlands. So that's going to be hardcore off-roading, kind of like the Rubicon and the Wrangler. And then from there is the Wild Track, and that they say it's high-speed off-roading. I personally think it's pretty similar to the Badlands for most people, but that one comes standard with the Sasquatch, big tires and that kind of group right off the bat. So what are the differences between the trims, and which ones should you go for and forego? All right, so right off the bat, I'm going to say the Big Bend does not make a huge amount of sense to me. I don't think it gives you that many advantages over the base model. It does give you remote start, some AC power stuff, and a leather-wrapped steering wheel. But in my opinion, if you want an affordable Bronco, forgo the Big Bend and just get the Sport. Big Bend in the Wrangler equivalent is like a Sport S, and you see a lot of these, I hate to say it, at least in the Wrangler world, in rental car fleets, because it has slightly nicer wheels than the base model, but it really isn't all that much better value. So forgo the Big Bend. I'm also going to say forgo the Wild Track, which is going to be a little bit, maybe, how do I describe it? Counterintuitive. Now, they say high-speed off-roading. I personally don't think there's that big of a difference between the Wild Track and the Badlands in terms of its ability to go off-road at higher speeds. And the Wild Track does not have something called the sway bar disconnect that the Badlands does. So in terms of the ultimate in off-roading, I think the Badlands is going to be slightly better in that realm because it has the front sway bar disconnect. You do have to obviously spec the Sasquatch package on top of a Badlands, but Wild Track, it's cool, but the Badlands I think is going to be just a little bit better. And then from there we've got the Outer Banks, which is fine if you want the luxury one and maybe you want the nice seating materials and you don't care so much about the off-road stuff. Outer Banks, fantastic, definitely consider it. And then my favorite, Black Diamond, because this gives you everything you need to have fun out in the wilderness. It's ready to tackle the biggest rocks that I think people are going to be attempting in a brand new expensive vehicle. It's got the rear locking differential. It's got the washable floors, and that's the one that's ready for adventure without having to jump up to the top dog Badlands. So let's start with Black Diamond and maybe dive into some of the options on top of that. So a bunch of colors. There are some new colors for 2022, including Eruption Green and Hot Pepper Red Metallic. They got rid of some colors since the 2021 model year. So for example, Antimatter Blue is one of the colors that has been discontinued. Colors, it really is just your choice. I'm not going to tell you, what colors to go for. That's going to be a preference thing. Wheels, a bunch of different wheel options. Once again, going to be a preference thing. Some wheels make you select the Sasquatch package. Black Diamond comes from the factory with off-road tires, which is cool. As we mentioned, I would probably spec the hard top, the MIC top, which stands for mold in color. Now, the heavy-duty modular bumper. There's a bumper you can buy on the Bronco, which allows you to take basically the ends off for a better approach angle. It also gives you some more bash plates. I don't know if I would spec it, to be honest with you. I think that the standard bumpers on the Bronco lineup are probably pretty good and good enough for what most folks are going to be doing. So I'd probably forego the modular front bumper. And then down the road, maybe if you want to add like a winch and if you want to, upgrade your Bronco with different bumpers, I think there's going to be a huge aftermarket community that's going to pop up around this kind of thing. And it's worth noting too that the Black Diamond comes with all the steel bash plates as it is. So there are body protective moldings which you can get on your Bronco. Strongly recommend not getting those. I think they look pretty silly. It's kind of like putting diamond plating on a old like CJ to hide rust. That's what it reminds me of. There are flare kits. Once again, all these visual things, I'm not really sure you need. You can spend huge amounts of money on them, from appearance packages to spare tire covers to crossbars on the roof. I guess crossbars on the roof would be handy if you're looking to haul stuff up there, such as like rooftop tents. So maybe consider the crossbars, but like the brush guards, the wheel locks, that all kind of thing is a little pointless to me. But let me know if you agree or disagree with that. One cool thing is the keyless entry pad, $110. It lives on the side of the vehicle, and you can punch in a code to get in and out of the car. That's fantastic. Definitely worth the $110. I've used it a bunch on like F-150 products, and it has saved my butt in a lot of cases. The assistant kit on road, do not spend $80 on that. The assistant kit off road, I personally wouldn't spend $210 on that. Just build it yourself afterwards. Floor liners, yeah, floor liners would be good if you want some carpets in there. The storage bags for the top panels are good to have, because if you don't, there's a good chance you'll probably scratch your roof. So there are two different four-wheel drive systems. I just want to make this very clear. I should have probably talked about this earlier. There's one where you have to select 2 high, 4 low manually. There's one with an option called four-wheel drive auto, where the vehicle will sense when the front wheels will slip and engage four-wheel drive as it sees fit. I actually don't think the auto system is all that great on the Bronco. I was playing with it yesterday off-road in a little bit of off-camber, maybe even wet, snowy situations, and I would just get the basic four-wheel drive system where you have to push the 4 high button. At least when you do that, 4 high is engaged, and you're going to have power going to both front and back axles all the time. So when we look at equipment groups, this is where things get a little bit sticky, and it changes depending on the model. The base equipment group is called the standard package, the 321A, and that's going to be the smaller screen. It's going to give you the basic stuff you need, like LED headlights and cruise control and that kind of thing. From there, you can spec something called the mid package, which is going to give you features depending on the trim. It'll change a little bit. Auto dimming rearview mirror, ambient footwell lighting, dual zone automatic climate control. That's a big deal for some folks. Heated front seats, Sync 4, Ford Copilot 360, which is their safety suite. And for example, on the Black Diamond, that's a $1,500 option. Strongly recommended, at least for the safety gear. I think that is certainly the way to go. And then if we look at a different model, you'll also see something called the high package. So there's kind of the standard, the mid, and then the high. And then the high is going to give you the bigger screen, 360-degree camera, just kind of some tech features. And then from there's also a Lux package, which gives you adaptive cruise control, B&O sound system, evasive steering assist, wireless charging pad. And once again, these are going to change depending on the trim, but I think that the mid is the way to go. You don't get that cool 12-inch screen, but it's going to give you the safety gear you need. It's going to give you the automatic climate control, which is good. I think that the high and the Lux are cool, but if you're buying a Bronco for all of its luxury gear, I don't know if you really need all those crazy USB-C ports and wireless charging stuff and the big screen. The big screen is very nice, but in my opinion, not super required. There's also a towing group for $595. Definitely recommend it. That will bring your towing capacity up to 3,500 pounds, and it's also just great to have in case of an emergency or in case the vehicle needs to be recovered. So, all right, let's kind of sum this up. I do apologize for being long and rambly, but there's a ton of stuff here, and I have probably missed a ton of stuff. Let's go ahead and recap. Go ahead and buy the 4-door Bronco. I think it'll also help with resale value. Go ahead and get the hard top. It's worth noting if you get a 2-door, by the way, hard top comes standard. There's no soft top on the 2-door. So 4-door Bronco, hard top. I would probably forego the Big Bend, and I would probably forego the Wild Track. The one I would get if you really want to go crazy off-road, get the Badlands. But for 99% of people, the Black Diamond is going to be my recommendation. The base is cool, but it's just a little bit too bean canny. I hate to say it, but with the plastic steering wheel and the steel wheels that are silver, I think a lot of folks are not going to like that. But the Black Diamond has all the off-road gear you need. It's got the rear locking diff. If you are in a situation where some trims will allow you to spec a rear locking diff for a few $100, maybe $700, just do it. It's such a nice thing to have. And do that and don't go for the Sasquatch. Like, for example, I'm looking at Outer Banks right now, $800 for the rear locker. Get that rear locker for $800. Forgo the $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for the Sasquatch. That's kind of where I'm at for the vast majority of people. And then upgrade the tires later if you want it to look a little bit cooler. So Black Diamond's the one I would get. It's the kind of the everyman off-roader. Outer Banks if you live in the city. Badlands if you're insane and you want all the crazy gear. So Black Diamond. I like the yellow. I think that orange. There's a big argument, but I'm going with yellow, although it's officially orange. Get the orange. Get the steel wheels, or you can change it if you want. Definitely get the hard top. I just hate the wave in the back. Leave the front bumper. You don't need the front bumper. Don't need any of the body armor or cockpit covers or any of that. Get the keyless entry keypad. Definitely worth it. Avoid the assistant kits. I think those are always terrible deals. Maybe I'd get some floor liners for it too, just for having that convenience. I'd get one of the storage bags for the roof. And then I would just get the mid package for $1,500 on the leave the small radio, but get some of the safety gear and the dual zone automatic climate control. That's nice. And then let's see, 2.7 liter EcoBoost because I'm at altitude. That's going to automatically select the automatic transmission option, and then the tow hitch. And let's see what my recommended Bronco comes into. Total price, $48,425. So that adds up quickly. But that is how I would spec my Bronco. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, how crazy off I am. But I'm pretty confident that this is the way to do it, at least in my opinion. And we will see you guys next time on another episode of The Fast Lane Car. Whoa, nope, sorry. Forgot the most important thing. You can't really buy a Bronco right now. It's a real debacle. There's been a lot of production constraints, which means that they're still coming to reservation holders that have been waiting in some cases for 10, 12, 13, 15 months. And there's been a lot of potential markups from dealers. Please don't pay a markup on a Bronco. It's in a lot of ways better than the Wrangler and the 4Runner, but it's not worth the $10,000 markup. I don't even think it's worth a $5,000 markup or even a $1,000 markup over a Wrangler or a 4Runner, because those vehicles are super good as well. So try to find a dealer that's not going to mess with you in that way. And then, I don't know. I think that a lot of folks don't have the opportunity to order exactly the dream trim, at least for the next year, in my opinion. So you're probably going to have to find one off a lot or go from there. It's a very hard time to buy a Bronco. But if you are watching this in a year and they're available, then this would be helpful. But please, good luck. Don't pay crazy markups. It's just, in my opinion, just kind of throwing money away. And if you have to compromise on your dream features a lot for your dream vehicles, maybe wait a little bit, see what happens, because, the market's a mess right now.